Donuts.
Woo!
Don't.
Hey everybody, welcome to the second episode of the Simpsons podcast. We're coming at you as a video podcast, talking to you about season 1, episode...
I think, is it 9?
9?
Life in the Fast
Life
Lane.
in the Fast Lane. We recently did a video on the Flaming Moe's, and I kind of, with the Simpsons, since there's like 34 seasons now, I kind of like to just sort of pick and choose which episodes we can cover because they're pretty much, like a standard storyline. You don't have to watch, you can just watch an episode of The Simpsons and not have to feel like, you can watch episode 20 of season 20 and kind of get the gist of it and don't have to watch it, season 10 or episode 20.
Each one's sort of like a self-contained.
Yeah. And so we decided, we were kind of thinking, why don't we, with Disney Plus having all the Simpsons on there, we could do kind of pick and choose what kind of episodes we can do. So we decided to do episode 1 of this, episode 6?
Either 6 or 9.
6 or 9.
Life in the Fast Lane.
Life in the Fast Lane. And in this episode, it's a pretty good standard episode about where it's Marge's birthday and
Homer completely forgets,
like he usually does, and gets attracted to buying a bowling ball for himself. Which every husband probably should never do on your wife's birthday.
With his name engraved in it.
With his name engraved in it.
Made for his fingers.
Made for his fingers, yes. So he buys it and gives it to Marge.
Right.
And what's really interesting is Bart gets like a bottle of French champagne.
French
champagne. A gallon of French perfume.
Right.
And Lisa, what was Lisa's?
It was like a homemade cart of macaroni, but it was like a beautiful,
it was like artwork of it. So basically, and then we get to see Patty and Selma,
right,
Marge's sisters, and so Homer basically, does his own thing and gets a bowling ball.
Right.
And so...
And they go to the
singing sirloin.
The singing sirloin for dinner. Where there's all the waiters sort of sing little ballads to the customers.
Oh, customers. And so and that's a really cool scene because you see, as they're walking in, there's one that's singing like, "You're having a baby, congratulations," or something like that. And then there's like a mourning of a couple that just lost somebody, and they sing like some sort of serenade of a quiet,
Oh, right. Yeah, there's like a sort of like they sort of look like a really, like they're sort of like singing church hymns.
Church hymns, yeah.
And that made me like wonder, had Ned Flanders been introduced yet?
Ned, I think season 1, Ned was introduced, I would probably say in the first episode, in the
you're right,
Christmas episode.
He was on season 1, episode 1.
Yeah.
Technical difficulties.
Just...
okay, yeah, because I was wondering, because that seems something they would have thrown Ned into, but maybe it's probably further on.
Yeah.
Where he would have shown up in there.
Okay, and so there we go. So basically, but that's the other thing too. Is this is still kind of the first season. They're still trying to find their, the settings. Right. Now I think they're on their 34th season right now.
Right.
And and now at the days, I feel like Simpsons has just become an institution at this point.
Right.
But what I kind of like about this episode is the so as we go, so Homer gets selfishly gets Marge a bowling ball, and plops it right in front of the cake.
Yeah, I think it smashes the cake.
Smashes the cake. And, and Marge, and he's like, don't you like it? And then he kind of says, like really arrogant, well, if you don't really want it, I know somebody who does. and Marge says, you know what? Fine. I'm going to go and take it to
go bowling with
it. And, that's fine by me. And he goes, well, you can't bowl. He kind of like...
He's like, well, you've never bowled a day in your life.
Yeah, and she's like, well, watch me. So, the next day, she goes to the bowling alley.
Yeah.
And her first thing is like, I like to bowl. And she goes, well, you need shoes to bowl.
She's like, no, thank you.
No, thank you. She's like, well, you're going to need... And she's like, well, you're going to... And the bowling attendant says, you're going to need shoes. And then she's like, okay, now where do I bowl now? And she tries to throw the ball. It's like, can't bowl without a lane. And then you have Jacques showing up. Jacques is a French
bowling
expert who basically just becomes smitten with Marge.
And he seems sort of like your traditional, I don't know, sleazy-ish, ladies' man type.
Yeah, sleazy ladies' man. He actually, I think in later episodes, if you go to, I think how in season 3 we had Flaming Moe's that we talked about. I think in one of the episodes, Princess Cashmere, who was in an earlier episode or later episode in season 1, where Homer goes to this guy's bachelor party and starts dancing with Princess Cashmere, and Bart sees it and takes a picture with it. He basically says, so I think they actually start dating, or there's some scenes where you see them together. So that's kind of a character, but we haven't seen Jacques actually as a character in 34 years or something.
Maybe we'll turn up this season or next season.
Well, Sideshow Bob did, and then Frank Grimes Jr.
Okay.
But anyway, so you see, so she starts bowling, and he kind of comes up
teacher
and teaches her how to bowl, and basically she's like, I'm gonna make you. She tells him that, or he tells her, he's basically, be the ball kind of philosophy, and he gets down on the
feel the floor. And then they have a pretty good montage where they're sort of, I think they're making fun of the Ghost, where it's they're with she his hand does on her hand as she's bowling,
and then
eating onion rings.
And he helps her dip the onion rings, and as this is going on, Homer is basically dealing with the kid, Bart and Lisa and Maggie, and so they order pizza, and he's like, well, your mom just left this list. First thing to do, all right, we're going to eat pizza. All right, so they eat pizza, and then he goes, all right, kids, we're going to have to clean up. We can do this as a team. And so what they do is they just toss the box of pizza, or box of that had the pizza in it, to each other.
Yeah, it's sort of like a fireman drill.
Yeah, it's like a fireman drill. Perfect, excellent.
Yeah.
And the thing about this is, and Jay, what was your thoughts with the animation? Because you look at this animation and it doesn't really get better. It's it's improved, with digital animation.
Right.
Since, now that there's something classic.
No, I like the hand-drawn. I feel like you really got across facial expressions and stuff.
That you probably don't get now with kind of the digital.
Yeah, I think sort of crisp. I liked it, and I don't know. I like sort of the more rough around the edges animation.
Yeah, I did, and I think it's, and I've kind of said, I think this is sort of an episode where I think what was interesting, and I might have repeated this, but with the princess, I think it's really showing how strong in the first season Homer's and Marge's relationship can be.
Right.
Because the other thing too is, so she's doing the thing. She's doing the thing with bowling with Ghost, and the episode after they start cleaning up, she's been coming late at night.
Right.
And Homer kind of asked her, "So are you gonna go see him again?" And she's like, "Well, I've got a bowling match, or bowling class."
Right.
And he's like, "Well, and he feels a little bit thing." And then Marge starts really smothering the kids.
Oh yeah, she's overcompensating.
Overcompensating.
What Lisa says.
And so Lisa's kind of like, Bart's like, "Oh, we're making up like that." And it's like, Bart or Lisa's like saying, this is probably the third birth, or this is like the 4 stages of child guilt divorcee.
Uh-huh.
And I'm already in stage 2. And he's like, "What are you talking about?" But slowly Bart, at near kind of the middle of the, kind of closer to the end of the episode, he's like, they're going out playing
catch,
and and Bart, throws it, and of course Homer is basically kind of, I think my marriage is over, kind of.
Yeah, he's very depressed at this point.
And so it hits him right in the head, and he falls over, and Bart goes over to him and says, Homer, Dad, wake up. You didn't even say ouch. He's like, "Oh, ouch." And so then Homer or Bart starts going, "Oh no, Lisa, what's going on?" And she's like, "I can't help you, Bart. I'm already
on stage 5, self-pity.
Self-pity." And he goes through all the stages real quick. And then he's like, so he starts freaking out, and then Homer. Oh, so did we already talk about Lovejoy?
Oh no, this is like when they went to brunch.
So they go. So what I love is Jock asks her to brunch, and he says, "Would you join me for brunch?" And she's like, "What's brunch?" He's like, "It's not quite breakfast. It's not quite lunch, but it comes with a cantaloupe at the end." And she's like, "Okay." And so they go to the diner,
right?
And they're checking, and he's like, "Mimosa?" And she's like, "Oh, I'm a married woman.
Don't call me that.
Don't call me that." And he's like, No. Mimosa is a drink. It's champagne and orange juice," in which it is. And so, of course, he's like talking to her, and "I love the way you laugh, Marge." And then all of a sudden, Helen Lovejoy shows up. The busy nobody body shows up and says, "Oh my gosh, I was just having breakfast, and I looked over there and I saw, isn't that Bart Simpson without her husband?" And he's like, "We're just having a bowling lesson. Now, Marge, pretend that these
it's like the salt
and pepper shakers are pins, and this little grape is a ball." And he tries to smooth it out.
Uh-huh.
And then and then it goes into, after that, where after they kind of do the bowling lessons, he asks her
to come to his apartment.
And she kind of has a fantasy,
right,
where she starts to dance with him.
Uh-huh.
And and it's kind of this elegant, where he's in a thing where he's in a tuxedo and she's in a gown.
But then there's all the bowling. It sort of reminded me of the Big Lebowski.
Yes, but not as fun.
Yeah.
But the other thing too is this came out in 1990, 91.
Okay.
Or 1990. Big Lebowski didn't come out till 97, I think.
So maybe the Big Lebowski copied them.
Yeah, who knows? So she's dancing with him, and then he's like, Marge, are you awake? He's kind of slaps her. Let me slap her, but he tries to wake her up from the thing. And she says, she says something. And
she says, "Is Thursday okay?"
Is Thursday okay? He's like, "Yes, it would be great." So she kind of so then she comes home, and Homer's kind of basically going, "Oh shit, my marriage is over," kind of thing. And he's in bed, and he's in bed and he's like going, "How's bowling?" And she's like, it's fine, blah blah blah. And then the next morning, he tries to. You can kind of tell that he's trying to save his marriage,
right? By complimenting how she makes a peanut butter and jelly sandwich.
It's like most people put the bread over the bread over the thing, but you bread and jelly over the or the peanut butter and jelly over the bread, and the jelly starts to smear off or leak off a little bit, but you put it right in the middle. And I kind of feel like that, you kind of, and I mean, I know it's a cartoon, but you can see how their marriage has sort of lasted this long. I mean, if you really want to see a bad marriage, is in The Millhouse Divided. It was season, I think, 7 or 8.
Okay.
And it was where Millhouse's parents get divorced.
Yeah.
So you kind of can tell that, kind of the seeds are sort of there.
Right.
But then she gets in the car and she's driving, and as she's driving, she looked out the window, and she sees like this happy couple.
She sees like a married couple coming out of a church.
Yes.
She sees like an old, like really old couple holding hands. Yes. She sees like some tombstones next to each other. And she passes like a Halloween store with two skeletons
holding hands. And I kind of like, so I mean, so I like kind of like it shows that segment, and then it shows she decides not to go with Jock, of course.
Right, but then she comes up to a fork in the road, and one's like to the power plant, and the other one's like to his apartment.
His apartment, like complex. It's literal
fork in the road.
Fork in the road, yes. And so she goes to the. So she kind of makes her choices.
Yeah, she like drives to the apartment for a second, and backs up, and then drives to the. She's like trying to make up her mind.
And then she walks in without a safety helmet or nothing. And I think it's a parody of Officer and a Gentleman.
Right.
Because I think in Officer and Gentleman, it was him, Richard Gere's character, that walks in, and I think the girl is working at the thing.
Okay.
And, and working at the power plant or some sort of factory.
Right.
And he grabs her, like not grabs her, but like hoists her up, and they walk out. And in this one, Homer's working with nuclear stuff.
Yeah, and this time, like, he's normally like in his little control booth. He was actually had like gloves on.
No, he doesn't have gloves. It has like a, it's like a
glove box type
box thing that I guess holds nuclear radiation things.
Right.
And so he's like going, Marge, what are you doing here? And you're here to see me, right? And then he swoops her off her feet and carries her, and he's like. And then his supervisor goes, "Hey, what do you want me to tell the boss?" He says, "Tell him that I'm going to my car and I won't be back for 10 minutes." And then the episode ends.
Yeah.
So it's a pretty good episode for the first season. Jay, what was your thoughts behind the camera?
Oh, no, I liked it. Yeah, I thought it was a good episode. Had all sort of like the more. I don't want to say like drama heavy with like the whole marital issues and stuff from other episodes.
I think this one and the picture, the one with the belly dancer.
Okay, yeah.
Are both of the ones that really kind of test their marriage.
Yeah, they're sort of like mirror images of they're like. Also, I guess some interesting. I noticed this one did not have a couch gag.
Yes, that's true. Or a
the car scene
or the chalkboard scene.
Yeah, so like
it didn't really, and it kind of, I was kind of surprised too. I was going to mention that, too. Well, and you beat me to it. But I kind of think, and I wonder if...
Is that maybe a time thing?
Well, it might have been a time thing. It might have been it might have been a time thing. It might have been just trying to get that episode out pretty quickly. I don't know.
Oh, right. Yeah, that's true.
Because, this is the first season. Remember that this show was a spinoff of Tracy Ullman. So they might have, it's episode...
I think it's 9.
9 of the series. And there was only 13 episodes in the first season.
Okay.
So, I was kind of... It's a pretty good episode for, like, I think to deal with sort of the their issues, it was a good episode.
Yeah, and I like Jock's character. I thought he was pretty good. He's sort of like smooth talking.
Smooth talking. And well, the thing about Jock was now Jock and Princess Cashmere, I've seen in like seasons 2 and up, they're actually together. So it's kind of an interesting thing. But what would your rating? I mean, I guess you got to look at it, I think, 2 ways. As a first season one, I think it was a decent episode.
No, I say it was a good episode.
It was a good episode.
Yeah.
I feel like it's okay. I think it's, I think a lot of people talk about The Simpsons that it's been declining since like season 10. I think it depends on sort of, I think there's something classic about this episode, not this episode, but just the first season. Like Homer sounds a lot more like Walter Matthau, and then kind of you listen to his voice on season 1 versus season 13. You're like, it's the inflections are a little bit different, but
right.
I like this episode. I think it was a pretty, it was a pretty it's a kind of a burner episode, just sort of, it doesn't, with The Simpsons, it's just sort of like, it doesn't, like, when you got into, the death of Maude in season 10, season 8, the divorce, those episodes...
have, like, lasting changes.
Yes, yeah. And this one really didn't have a lasting change. It was a pretty much one-and-done episode.
Right.
So I give it... It's not as good... I think I'll give it a 6. What would you think out of the scale from 1 to 10?
I would probably give it a 7 or 8.
7 or 8?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I liked the story with the more like drama heavy gave it good.
Yeah,
I like some of the jokes.
I mean, it wasn't as, I didn't think it was as, it wasn't I think it dealt, I mean, it wasn't like, like my favorite episodes are like the Crayon in the Brain episode.
Right.
The one where Homer starts his own daycare. A lot of the ones that I kind of, grabbed the hold when I was 13.
Right.
And I feel like the first season, they're still, like I listen to a podcast where they review television series that lasted 1 season or less. And really that first season, they're still trying to find that gap, it doesn't really get better till the second season.
Right.
But I think it was a good episode. I give it 79 on a 1 to 100 scale. So that was our take on, that was our second episode of The Simpsons, or second podcast of The Simpsons. I'm Steve, and behind the camera is...
Here's lovely assistant Jay.
And we'll be back with more. What are we talking about next?
I think next episode might be on the Power Rangers.
Power Rangers, all right. Stay tuned. And